Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to meetup number 23, the one with PinkDraconian. Let me grab him. Welcome everybody. This is PinkDraconian. Say hi.
Hello, everybody. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Meetup number 23, almost number 24, which means that we're almost 2 years old, which is quite exciting. Today, we have a meetup focused on cross-site scripting and getting to learn that technology, those types of exploits, and just gathering some knowledge to get better at it. Next month, for our meetup next month, we'll have a workshop on reverse engineering. So if you like that, be sure to reserve your seat there. And for April, we are planning a birthday bash. Then we'll be 2 years old. We outlived the COVID measures then, hopefully. We'll see. That will be quite exciting. Yeah, I have my fingers crossed. I've tried. Regular people will know that we started with the plan to do a physical meetup that got sacked because of COVID. Then our restrictions lifted, and we did plan it again. We had everything down to ordering pizzas. That was the last thing, and then we had lockdown again. So I'll cross everything that I can cross. I'm Arjen. This is PinkDraconian, and today we will have a great evening. So, PinkDraconian, please introduce yourself, and let's get the party started.
Perfect. I'm gonna start by sharing my screen. That'll be easier for me. Let's see if this will work.
We should have tested that before.
Yeah, we should have. Can you, there we go.
Best laid plans. There we go. It's beautifully in the screen.
So today we're going to be talking about cross-site scripting. But first, I'm going to quickly do an introduction of myself and of Integrity. Let's get started with that. First of all, who am I? I'm Robbe van Rooij. That's my name, and then PinkDraconian is my online hacking name, whatever you want to call it. And you may have already seen me on YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, where I make YouTube videos on everything security related. And on Twitter, I have this series where I make Bugbounty recap videos, which is daily a 1 minute long video where I cover a bug bounty report, so a finding, and go into depth into that. And then lastly, find me on LinkedIn, anywhere. My goal in the security world is to be a jack of all trades, so somebody that knows everything about everything. But obviously, I'm not a jack of all trades. I guess it's impossible to be that, but it's nice to strive for that. And to be honest, XSS was something that I wasn't really interested in the beginning, but now that I've gone into the bug bounty world more, I see its value and I see the dangers that it poses. And today I'm going to try to give you an impression of what XSS may do and of how advanced some XSSs could be. That's it for me. In my professional life, I work at Integrity. Now, I don't know if a lot of you have already heard about Integrity. By the way, I like with these talks to always have a lot of interaction with the chat, so feel free to just type questions and comments into the chat and I will read them. Have any of you already heard about Integrity or potentially even have a profile on Integrity, or is this or is bug bounty something fairly new for you, or do you have profiles on other bug bounty platforms?
I actually did some work on Integrity, so that was quite nice. The YouTube stream always has a delay, people will have to wait sometimes 20 seconds to actually hear the question, and then they have to type something. I actually did some Integrity work, and I chose it because it has a lot of European companies, Dutch companies and European companies. So that was quite nice. Let's see if there's in the chat if there's anybody that has.
But I think that there might also be some people that maybe don't have any experience with bug bounty or like what it is.
MKJ Wire says, I do have a profile but haven't started yet. I think
Okay.
most.
And if you ask that question, is always also very interesting to ask, why haven't you started yet? But we'll get into that in a little bit. But just quickly, for people that don't know what bug bounty is, bug bounty has the idea where companies, they want to be hacked because they want to know about all of their vulnerabilities and whatnot. And hackers, well, hackers want to hack. Hackers gonna hack. So bug bounty is these companies say, hey, you can hack us legally, and if you do, let us know, and then we'll pay you money for your finding. And that's the idea of bug bounty. It's pretty similar to, for example, hack the box, where, well, you have a box. In this case, you have a company, you're allowed to hack on it, and if you find something, you get money in this case. And that's a really, really nice one, of course. Integrity is also very European. We have a lot of Dutch companies as well, a lot of Belgian companies. For example, things like banks, which are interesting to hack on because for some of them, only Belgian or Dutch people are allowed to hack on them. So definitely interesting to look into if you want to get into the bug bounty field.
Also, the European Union has some programs. If I don't
Yeah,
know.
the European Union is actually also sponsoring some open source projects to hack on. So it's a very interesting, and we're really scaling up here. For example, Intel is currently one of our companies, but yeah, I'll get into that now. So Bug Bounty, what? We're a Bug Bounty platform. So we facilitate the hackers and the companies, and we make them work together. And like I said, that's a match made in heaven, because companies want to be hacked and ethical hackers want to hack. Here you see some of our of the companies that are part of Integrity that you can legally hack on. As you can see, Intel, Sixt, Nestle, Port of Antwerp, Red Bull. So some big names that you can hack on, but there's obviously also smaller names, because some of these big names might scare people. Don't be scared. And that's also why I've included this slide, which is why people do bug bounty. So on the left, we have this graph here where you can see that 70% of the people that do bug bounty, their goal is to do it to learn. And that is a great goal to have. Obviously, you can learn in many ways. You can learn on Hack the Box, you can learn on Try, Hack Me, whatever. But you can also learn by just doing it in the real world, by trying out bug bounty. So that's great. We can also see that 63% of the people do it for the money, which is also nice. But then there's obviously a ton of people that don't do it. And to be honest, I was a part of that side for a long, long time, because I was very scared. I was scared that I wasn't skilled enough to do it. But you are skilled enough. Sometimes I see submissions going by that are so incredibly simple, like literally just a login page left open with admin, or like the simplest SQL injection, and then the person gets paid like $5,000 for that, which is insane. And it will obviously not happen without any work, but the skill, you will gain the skill from just doing it, from playing around with it, from being in the community. The second thing that people are scared of is that they won't find anything. And I always like to say, well, you're not going to find anything with that attitude. If you start on Hack the Box or wherever, and you already have set yourself up for failure, you start with the hardest box maybe, and you're like, oh, I'm stuck. Well, I'm not going to become a hacker. Then yeah, you're not going to become it. So definitely don't be scared to do it. And then lastly, one of the things that I also hear is that there is too much competition. And this is a big difference between boxes, where everybody can find the same vulnerability, and that's great, and real life, where obviously you have to be the first one to find a vulnerability. But let me help you there, because if there's too much competition, then we have the perfect solution, and those are private programs. So companies that are private, that only invited people get a chance to hack on. And to get you a head start, and if you've hacked before, you can also do this. Just comment your username into the Discord chat here. Just say Integrity username, and then your username. And then after this meeting, I will make sure that throughout the next week you will get some invites to your account, so that you can start hacking on some of these private programs. Because I've learned from experience that a lot of people are scared to start, scared to hack on, for example, Red Bull or whatnot, because everybody can see them. But once you have like a private program where only a couple 50 people have a chance to hack on them, you have a way greater chance of finding something. So yeah, that's what I'm offering here. Just create a profile on integrity.com and comment your username, and I'll get you an invite just to get you started. Even if you don't think you're going to find anything, or even if you only want to hunt on it for an hour, try it out, give it a shot, and who knows what may happen. You might get a great bounty. So yeah, I hope that I will see some usernames in the chat afterwards, and yeah, then I'll get that going. But that's it for integrity and all that. We are here today to talk about cross-site scripting, of course, XSS. And the first question is, what is XSS? And before I get into that, I should say that this what we're going to be doing today is solving some XSS labs, and this is geared towards people that already have some basic JavaScript knowledge, some basic idea of what XSS is. So we will not be going over exercises that are just script alert one, close the script tag, because that would be a little too easy for the people that have seen it before. However, if you're fully new to XSS, just try to listen in and see if you can find anything yourself, and try to learn as much as you can. But what is XSS? XSS is a client-side vulnerability. And that is kind of opposing a lot of the things we learn in labs such as Hack the Box, because there we are mostly attacking the server. Those are mostly server-side vulnerabilities. We want to take control over the server. However, you also have a lot of users interacting with websites, with servers, and those users are also a very valuable target. So client-side vulnerabilities, they attack the people on the client side of the server, so the people on a website. For example, if we were to hack Facebook, we could either hack the Facebook servers themselves, or we could hack the users of Facebook. And both have a very great impact, because if we can hack all the users of Facebook, those users are not gonna want to use Facebook anymore, and that's a big issue. So it's a different kind of issue, but still nonetheless equally important to focus on. So that's client-side vulnerabilities. There's a ton more. You have open redirects, you have CSRF, and all that kind of stuff. But today we're focusing on XSS. And the goal of XSS is to cross-site script, to execute arbitrary JavaScript on a victim's computer. So somebody randomly on the internet visiting a website, and you can execute JavaScript on their computer, which is obviously a very big issue. Now, some of the basic payloads here are a script with an alert document.domain. That's cool, that's fun. Then we have an image with a source that is set to something invalid. So it's going to try to load the image X, but no image X exists. So then an on error is going to be executed. And that event in this case is also an alert document.domain. You will see that in these labs, we like to use alerts, which are these little pop-ups that you can see on the left here. And we like to use them because they're a great visual proof of, hey, we executed something. However, attackers in real-life scenarios are obviously not executing alerts, and we'll go over the impact of an XSS in a bit here. But for these labs, we will not be causing any impact, because most of the times, as a bug bounty hunter, that is not really important. Once you can prove that you can execute code, that's enough. You don't always want to go and wreak havoc and break stuff. You might also wonder why we are specifically executing alert document.domain. And that is a very good question, but it has to do with that sometimes a page can be iframed, and then if you get an XSS in the iframe, it might be on a different domain, so it may not be a security issue for the main page. But that is all stuff that we shouldn't be bothered with. If you're doing an XSS here, if you run an alert document.domain and that works, and you see the same domain as your main website, then you've succeeded. So just remember that. But now let's get into some impact. And the first but commonly forgotten impact of an XSS is defacing. Attackers can inject HTML into a page. So if I have an XSS on the main facebook.com login page, I can just open an image element there, give it a giant width, give it a giant height, and just load, for example, this image server hacked by, and then my name, whatever. And that is some huge impact, because then anybody browsing to facebook.com or using my specific payload link, they will get that defaced image, and that's obviously a terrible thing. But it can go even further than that. For example, imagine that we have a web shop, and on that web shop we find an XSS. and we inject a pay by PayPal button, like you can see here, pay now with PayPal, on the checkout screen. So regular users, they won't be aware that there's an XSS present there. They will just go order their stuff and try to check out. And they see, oh, there's a pay by PayPal button. I'm going to use that because I want to pay by PayPal. And they pay you, the attacker, because that's how you hooked it up, instead of the actual website. That's a real life thing that can happen with XSSs. That's the impact that this can have. So often people say, oh, well, XSS is just an alert. What's the issue there? Well, there are real issues, but these issues go way, way further than that. For example, one of the biggest things that you can do with an XSS potentially is an account takeover. As you probably all know, on the web, your account is stored in or the fact that you're logged in is stored in a cookie, a session cookie, in most cases. And if you have that session cookie with every request, that's how the server knows, hey, this person is authenticated, is logged in. And if you copy that session token, go to a different PC and send a request with that session token, then you will still be logged in. That also means that if an attacker has access to that cookie, that he can also log into your account and take it over. That's possible with XSS because we have access to everything. We can just get document.cookie and send it over to the server of the attacker, and boom, he has access to your cookies. Obviously, there are protections on the web that you should set. For example, HTTP only on your cookies. Make sure that things like that are not possible, or the secure tag and all of that should be set. But in a lot of cases, they aren't. And then XSS can cause these issues. But that is not at all that XSS can do. For example, CSRF, a cross-site request forgery is possible, where we make the victim send a request to anywhere. XSS can also be used to inject a keylogger into the page. So, well, maybe you don't have access to grab the cookies, but you inject a keylogger into the login page. The user logs in with their username and their password, and boom, you also have it. And one of the other things that is also possible is a local DOS, so a denial of service, by crashing the browser of the user. And you can imagine that if you have an XSS on a main page of a website, if you crash every browser of every user that goes there, that's a very big issue. So the impact of this is really big, and I think that people often dismiss XSS as having no impact. And that may also be because XSS is incredibly common. They're found everywhere on every big website, and these companies, they sometimes don't want to pay a lot for them because, well, they get hundreds of these XSSs in. However, you should not forget that the impact of an XSS can be very big. And I hope here that I've kind of proven that there is a real impact. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But for these challenges, we're not going to be trying to get impact, because that is something that's more geared towards the the black hats, and not us, the ethical hackers.
Yeah, you posted here cross-site request forgery, CSRF. I'd like to use it to actually try and get things like CMS, if there's a XSS there, to actually make it so that you can go and get elevated privileges, like the admin accounts or stuff like that. Yep. And that's a really nice way to actually show how powerful XSS can be. If
exactly,
you can inject it into something that an admin sees, well, you can create your own account. How about that?
This is also commonly used for takeovers on very, very big places where you get an XSS, the admin triggers it, and you can then perform any action as the admin. And this can go as far as making you the admin, and then you also have pretty much a takeover of a whole system. So yeah, that's a very, very big one indeed. But luckily, CSRF is also its whole own category, so you can go very far into that, like XSS, all these client-side techniques. They go so far and so deep, and it's just a huge rabbit hole that you cannot stop looking into. So yeah, I highly suggest jumping into it, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, we in the chat we have a lot of people that already went out and created an account, so they're happy to give it a try. So. That is
amazing. I hope that you all will give it a go, even if it's only like an hour, even if it's only a single program you check out, even if you might also find that it's nothing for you, but then at least you have tried and you've given it a good shot. Because let's be honest, bug bounty hunting is not for everybody. Not everybody will enjoy it. But if you are somebody that would enjoy it, then yeah, it would be a waste if you haven't tried it out. But with your Integrity account, luckily, you'll also be able to do something really cool in the future, because we're hosting a CTF, so a really cool CTF and an online conference in the future that you can also log into with your Integrity account. So if you made that account, you will definitely still use it for future events and whatnot. So yeah, but let's move on here with a little bit of XSS. And I have here a page of some of the reports that I could find that are public that are all XSSs. And you can see some pretty big bounties here. And obviously these are the big guys, like your Twitter, your PayPal, your TikTok. And though they pay the highest bounties, you will not always get a 20,000 USD bounty for an XSS. But this shows that, and all of these reports are from this month, were disclosed this month. So this is not something that was 8 years ago. This is something that's still present, because that's something I hear a lot as well. People saying, well, XSS, that's an issue of the past. We don't have to worry with that anymore with frameworks and stuff. That's not possible anymore. And that is not true. As you can see out of these big bounties here, there are some really crazy ones here. And I highly suggest you check them out. Just Google XSS write-ups and you will find tons of bug bounty XSS write-ups that are really crazy. But so yeah, there's good money to be made, but don't do it for the money. If you only do it for the money, it will probably not end well, definitely not as a beginner. But now I would like to jump into our XSS challenges. At Integrity, we do these every single month. Now, they shouldn't always be XSS challenges every month. However, historically they have been. But these are really great because we have a ton of people trying them. On a couple of them, we had 100,000 people actually look at the tweet and try the challenge out, and only 50 actually solved it. So these are or have been historically pretty difficult. And I mean, that's the point of them, to really challenge even the most advanced people. But today I'm going to show you that they're not as hard as you may think, because we are going to go through some. But if you never want to miss any of these in the future, then be sure to follow @Integrity on Twitter, because if you solve them in the week that they go live, then you may have a chance of up to 300 euros of swag, which includes a t-shirt, bags, whatever you can imagine. But luckily for you, at the end of today, I will be giving away 250 euro swag vouchers. So stay tuned, and hopefully you will be one of the lucky winners there.
Everybody loves swag. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, and definitely the swag is so cool. I love seeing it. There's some, like, one of the items that I love the most is a fluorescent jacket that
nice.
At the back in big has security on it, and then in very small letters researcher. So you can just wear that and walk in any building you want. It says security awesome. On your fluorescent jacket, so you can just one. So awesome. That's one of the ones I like.
Nice. Yes, I should get one of those. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. It's a no-brainer. We've actually had pictures of people, and I cannot promote this, but we've had pictures of people walking into backstages of festivals with them and stuff. But yeah, do not do that for legal reasons. Do not.
It's research.
But yeah, let's jump into the first challenge. And this is the URL of the challenge, so you can go there. In a bit, I will also share my screen. These challenges are public. There's also public write-ups available, but let's keep it fun. Let's not look at them. Obviously, after this talk, you can go look at them. I'll share the videos for them and stuff like that. But for now, let's keep it fun. Let's try to solve them together. If you've already solved this one, there's plenty more to look at. Just change the month or the year in our URL, and then you'll find a different one. But for now, we're going to look at this first one that ended last week, because it's a bit simpler than all of the rest. And I think the idea here is that I give you guys about 10 minutes to just do your own research and see what you can come up with. Then after those 10 minutes, we'll come back together. I'll share my screen and I'll give some some guidance and see where you guys got and how you got there. So I would say that maybe we start off with, I will quickly go through the rules of this challenge,
Sure.
and then I give you 10 minutes. And once you guys get stuck or you don't know where to move next, then maybe in the comments you could type it, and then I'll get it back on the stream and help you guys, point you guys in the right direction, if that is all okay.
Very good. Very good.
So this first challenge is this one at the bottom here in the iframe page. But first of all, let's cover some rules. So the idea is that we get an XSS that works on Chrome and Firefox, and an XSS that executes alert document.domain, like we said. Things that are not allowed are opening your inspector tools, going into the console and typing alert 1. That is not an XSS, that is a self XSS. That is not allowed. It needs to be a link that you can share. For example, if I had this link, q equals alert 1, if that triggered, then that would be fine. This is obviously not correct on this one. But that would be fine, because I can share this and I can go fish people with it, and they will click the link and see that it's a real link and go there. So yeah, that's the idea. If there's any questions, shoot them in the chat. I will answer them. I will come back online and answer them. But yeah, let's give you guys about 10 minutes to look through this challenge and see what you can find and come up with. And do not expect to solve it in those 10 minutes. It's probably impossible, since I think some of the best researchers only solved it within an hour. But just try to see where you get, and that's how you learn, in my opinion. Thank you for the link in the chat. So yeah, you should all have access to that now, and I'll see you back in about 10 minutes.
See you in 10.
See you in 10.
So should we
Yes, let's get started.
put them
Let me
out
check
of their
my
get them
screen
started?
again. So I'm gonna start with a little straw poll, just to see where you guys got. I'll post it in the chat here. So yeah, just quickly fill this out just to see where you are at. Just tick all the boxes that apply for you. And I know there's an empty box at the end. I couldn't remove it.
Well, I finished it. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
Auto refresh results.
Uh,
Okay,
There will be at least
yeah,
one.
the empty box is getting some nice results.
Oh, it says
That's good.
VPN user voting is not allowed.
Okay, for the people that answer, I know what type of XSS this will be, reflected stored DOM. Can you post it in the comments? Maybe the one that it is, and why you think that it is that type. Okay, so I see that somebody already got an XSS on Chrome. That's really cool. That's really cool. Then that's great. That's most of the challenge already.
We have some really good people in our community.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true, and this will prove that. I see that most people have read the source code, and that the empty box is still being very good, and that some people have already found a reflected parameter, but not that many people. So yeah, I'm gonna point you guys in the right direction. I see no responses in the chat about this question, so
not yet. It's also a question of how much delay there is in the
that's
chat.
definitely true. Yeah. But I'll see it come in the chat once we get there at that point. But obviously we are not there yet because most people have read the source code. Some have found the reflected parameter. So let's get up to speed for the people that haven't yet. And let's look at the challenge. I hope that everybody, by the way, found an easy way to the challenge. As always, if you have any questions about that, let me know so that you're not sitting there not knowing where the challenge is or how you can play it. But we have this nice page. It says, welcome to XSS, the extremely short scripting game. Then there is a, hey, choose a name for your characters. The rules are that it can't be empty and it can't be longer than 24 characters. So if I call myself PinkDraconian, I've never played this game, then this will say, welcome back, PinkDraconian. And that's really all the functionality there is here. Now, I am a lead hacker, so the first thing that I'm going to try here is a script tag with an alert. And let's see what that does. Well, it says welcome back, but no, nothing is being executed here. What's going on? Why is that not working? If I look, oh, that's very big. If I look into the elements here, and go into that, where is my is it in here? No, it should be here. Yeah, here you can see. Yeah, let's zoom out again. You can see that my script alert tag is definitely there. So, I mean, it got placed into the browser. Why is this not executing? And that is a great question. So let's try to trace where our inputs, what is happening to our inputs, and seeing where it's going, because that's always very important. XSS always comes from a case where user input is not properly being sanitized. So if you track all your user input through the application, then you are bound to find some XSSs. In this case, we only have a very limited amount of user input, a yes and no button, and a name. And I mean, it's pretty clear that the name field is the most interesting here because that gets reflected onto the page. So that is the reflected parameter that you could find. If we type something here, we see that test will now appear on the page. So something that is user input gets shown on the page, which is a reflected parameter, something that gets shown. And that is something you always need. User input ending up on a page somewhere, something you always need for XSS so that you need to look for. But how does it end up there? Well, for that, we can look at the source code here in sources. And we see that there is this xss.html file, which contains CSS, because this is a terribly written application that has the CSS in the file directly. But at the bottom here,
beautiful though. It's quite
Yeah,
beautiful.
it looks beautiful. That I have to give give the creator that. At the bottom here we find a script tag. That's where the magic happens. That's where XSS gets executed. We see first of all that window.name gets set to this string. Then we have a function show modal, which will probably show the modal. Then we have here this window main form on submit. So if we submit the main form, this will be executed. For example, we will get the input name from the name field. We will get the is first. That's this little thing here. We'll get the value of that. Then we'll check if our input is empty. If it's empty, we just show error. It's empty. Then we check if our name is longer than 24 characters. If that's the case, then we say, well, keep it short. The length exceeds 24. Our name can only be shorter than 24 characters. So that's all still okay. And then we see that our window.location.search here gets set to $Q with our input name and our first. And that is really just setting the URL bar here with $Q equaling our name and first equaling whether we have played this game before and not. So just setting the URL bar up. And why do we set that up? Well, because here when the page loads, we are going to be checking if our URL bar or location.href, if that includes a Q equals. If that's the case, then we are trying to play the game.
Well, you take a zip. There's actually some people that's saying, well, it's actually reflected, but I'm thinking about looking into DOM as well, given the length requirements.
Yeah, that's a great thing, and I will get to that really soon, because it's an interesting situation, and if you've never heard of these, I will explain them in a little bit, of course. But to continue here, then we are gonna decode URI components, which is just gonna HTML decode this. So, for example, if you have a %20, that would be a space HTML encoded. We are gonna decode our location href, and it is to be noted here that location.href, that's our URL bar, that's user input. So this is something that if you look through code, if you're looking for vulnerabilities in code, if you see user input, pay close attention to what's happening here. So, okay, our input is being a URI here in the variable URI. Then we're creating a variable QS, which will be the split of our URI on and first equals and a split on $Q equals. And take the first thing here. What's that going to do? Well, if you look closer into that, you will quickly notice that that is just going to take the name parameter from your URL. So in this case, that would be test, because my URL is Q equals test and first equals yes. So that's just going to take your name. QS is our name. Here we have another check for the length. If our name is longer than 24 characters, well, we're getting an error. However, if it's not longer than 24 characters, we get welcome back with our QS in the show modal function. QS is user input. So now we really need to check out this show modal function because our user input is being used there. So let's go up to it here. And here we see that show modal takes in title and content, where content is our user input. It then gets the title DOM element, so just the element that it has to put the title text in, and then the content DOM element. And now it's going to set the title DOM element with inner HTML and the content DOM element with inner HTML as well. And this content is user input and it's being used in inner HTML. And this is a huge giveaway if you've looked into XSS before, but inner HTML is a terribly dangerous function because it facilitates XSS. This is literally saying, hey, whatever is given, just make the browser parse it and execute it. And obviously, if you give that user input, then there is a chance that you can get an XSS payload going. And now we also get to the question of, is this going to be, because we don't know it yet, is this going to be a reflected, a stored, or a DOM XSS? Now, for a stored XSS, that's the easiest to go into. That's where a payload is being stored on the server, and then when a user visits a certain page, it's being loaded from the server back onto the screen. And we can clearly see that in this case, that's not the case. There is no database where it's pulling data from. It's purely working with the URL. Then we can ask ourselves, well, is this reflected XSS or a DOM XSS? A reflected XSS is where you send the server a payload. The server is then going to make the document, so make the HTML page and put your payload in there and send back that page with your payload. Is that the case here? No, because the server doesn't respond with our payload being shown anywhere. It just has this logic that's going to put the payload in the document, in your page. And that is what a DOM XSS is. A DOM XSS is one where pretty much everything is happening on the client side. You supply a payload and your client is going to do something with that payload and show it onto the screen, put it into the DOM, which is a document object model, which is pretty much the page, so all the HTML. So your payload is going to be put into the DOM and the browser is going to execute it. And that's why in this case, this is a DOM-based XSS. However, because it sets the location here with your payload, you could also make an argument for it kind of being a reflected XSS, but in its purest form, it's a DOM XSS in this case. Or what
I sometimes also call it a client-side reflected, because it does not leave the client, but it's somewhat reflected. So
exactly, yeah, that would be fair. But okay, we still haven't solved this challenge. Obviously, I just told you that inner HTML is a dangerous function. A lot of you probably already knew that, but that still begs the question: well, why did our simple XSS not work? I did this, an alert 1, and I can even try setting a breakpoint here. I don't know how that will work because I've not tried that, but let's do it. Let's submit this, and we see, okay, here we come into the breakpoint. On our content DOM, we're going to set the inner HTML to content. Oh, in this case,
that's why you left out the 1 last time.
Yeah, that's why I did that. I just thought I'm not going to type the 1, but apparently that was very important. So let me run that again. Now it's not going to show. Let's try that once more. If it doesn't work, that's fine as well. There we go. In here, scroll down and put a breakpoint there. And then submit that. And in this case, it ends up here. And we see that it tries to set the inner HTML of this content element, this P here, to our payload, which should execute an XSS, right? Why doesn't it? And this is one of the times where, I mean, do any of you have any idea why this is not executing? Is there any idea? I'll give you a minute in the chat to kind of think about that and see. It's also fine to answer no if you don't know it and just want to know the answer, obviously. But let's give you a short minute here.
See what they come up with.
And if you have any idea, you can also say it, CredMP.
Yeah, you could just say Arjen. It's generally easier. Most people say nope. Nope.
Okay,
no
not
clue.
a clue.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's. I see
today you will learn something about browsers.
So maybe somebody has a clue. I'll give it 10 more seconds.
There's some people typing. So
yeah, let's see what they have to say.
No.
no
clue. Evaluation time. Oh.
That would be a good guess because browsers like to be stupid. So I definitely think that's good. As somebody says between the div tags. No, that's nothing to do with it. But it's the thing is, browsers are incredibly difficult, and browsers are partly made based upon just doing things and making the web work, and there's differences between Chrome and Firefox that we'll get into later. But then there's also a standard, and the standard says things have to go in a certain way. And the people writing the standard, the specification for how inner HTML works, they figured out, okay, that's a dangerous function. People shouldn't be using script tags in that function because that would be dangerous, right? So we are going to secure this function just a little bit. So what they did is they wrote in the specification that in inner HTML, when it's given a script tag, it should not execute that. The browser should not execute it. So script tags are not being executed in the browser in that way. However, I mean, they were smart, but they were not smart enough to also block things such as this payload, because this payload still just works fine when given to an inner HTML. So they decided to block the script tag, but not all of the other ways that an XSS would be possible. And in their defense, I guess it would be impossible to kind of maintain the functions of inner HTML whilst fully blocking XSS.
Yeah.
But I think this attempt to kind of block a single little thing and not everything is kind of like trying to stop an entire flood by just putting a sandbag in front of your house. Like it's not really going to do much.
There's arguments both sides, of course, because you still want to have dynamic pages. You want to be able to load stuff in a dynamic manner, and then you need to do some error handling as well with the on-air error thing. So it is insanely difficult to make a safe application, and that's why we make money.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And it's also because security was never really a plan in the web. The web started out being everyone can see everything. Like that's the whole idea behind the web. And now we are figuring out, oh damn, we need to secure this in some way. So there's a lot of these weird inconsistencies, but I know that this is something that trips up a lot of beginners, and it's just a nice little thing now. And somebody's saying in the chat that inner HTML should not be used, or that inner HTML you should never use it. And that's also not entirely true. In some cases, like you need it for certain applications. But what is true is that you should probably never use inner HTML with user input. That is probably true. However, even then, still, you might have a website that allows you to write your own HTML code that's being put onto your WordPress, for example. You write your HTML code and it's being put on your WordPress. In that case, well, it needs inner HTML to put your HTML code on the page. So there's arguments for all sides here. People want to do a lot of things, which puts the browsers and the people that write the specification in a very odd situation. But yeah, this was just a little trip-up point that could trip up a lot of people. But we have still haven't solved this challenge, because I said, well, this payload would work in an inner HTML. But if we look at its length, and I forgot how JavaScript works. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. It is 27 characters long, which is longer than 24, so that would not be allowed. And thus now the challenge has kind of converted into looking for very small XSSs here. And I think this is where I'm going to leave you for 10 minutes again. What you should try to do now is, if you didn't fully understand what we went through, try to go through it again in your own time, these 10 minutes. If you have any questions, come up with them in the chat. If you already understood this, then try to look for a very, very small XSS that could work. And this is not going to be something that you come up with yourself. This is Google. The best hackers are the people that are the best at Google. So try to find and see if you can find anything about that, and if you can get anything to work here, and that will be great for your progression. I also still had one more question that I forgot to talk about right at the beginning here, which was, why always use alert 1 to prove XSS, and why not an alert that shows more impact, such as a cookie or something like that? And Selby, this is really because impact can come in a lot of forms. Sometimes it may not be possible to grab cookies or to redirect the location, but that doesn't mean that other things aren't possible. In XSS, if it occurs, it's an issue that should be fixed. No matter how many protections you try to put against the consequences of it, you need to fix the root cause, so it needs to be found. You are free in your bug reports, if you want to scale it up to an account takeover or whatever, you're free to do that, but it's just not needed. And a lot of the advanced hunters, they want to go quick, so they just report an alert, document or domain, and they don't go into all of the impacts. I hope that answered your question. But for now, I will leave you for 10 minutes to see if you can come up with some very short XSS that might work here, and reasons why it might not work. And then I'll get back to you with a new straw poll so we can see where you all are at. Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm being scolded by Salp about my remark about making dynamic applications using HTML. Should be, but people do it. So yeah, browsers.
Yeah, there's definitely two sides of every story. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and figure out how document.domain fits into my payload because I got a nice alert. Now I just need
Yeah,
document.
that's true. Yeah, even if you get an alert, the challenge here says that you need to execute alert.document.domain. And a
How
hint,
long is that string?
uh,
That's
I think it's already
like
pretty long.
18 or something.
So yeah, you
22.
two additional characters to get an XSS going, but
Dude.
we'll go into why that's an issue and how we can solve that issue in a bit. But maybe getting your initial XSS that doesn't execute documented domain would already be a great start.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into that in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. See you in 10 minutes. Do we do
See
10
you then.
minutes?
Bye.
Yeah. Oh. How are we on time? I kind of got sidetracked with the challenge. So.
No problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. I think people will not mind that having
I
a.
kind of got sidetracked with the challenge.
Oh, I hear myself double. There we
Wait,
go.
wait. I think I figured it out. I still have no clue how to solve it, but I think I figured it out. So
All right. Interesting.
let's see if I'm right.
Let's see if you're right. I've posted another straw poll in the chat, so we can see how you got it. So you can either answer that you've solved the challenge, that you've gotten alert document.domain on Chrome and Firefox, that you got an XSS, so the full document.domain on Chrome, on Firefox separately. Perhaps perhaps you have found a way to execute an alert, but not yet the alert document.domain. Or perhaps you didn't find any resources, or you found some tiny payloads that you have been trying, but that didn't really get you anywhere. You may be wondering also why we are hammering down on that alert document.domain. And you will probably have noticed that that is a very long string, that's already 22 characters. And that's because with this eventual XSS payload, you should be able to run Doom on the website. like run any.
Don't make fun of this.
The website.
This is a thing in our Discord. So if it can run Doom, we will do it.
It can definitely run Doom, this XSS, so feel free to go for it. But that should be possible. So I see that some people got an XSS that executes an alert, but not yet alert document.domain. Some people found some tiny XSS payloads. So okay, that's great. Nobody did not find anything, so that's good that everybody made some progress. So yeah, let's start looking into it, into the rest of this challenge. So first of all, we were looking into some tiny XSS payloads because we will need it, because our image source on our alert is too long. And you can just Google that. So small XSS payloads would be the first thing that I Google. And then you come on this page by Tarian Q, or Tariank, or however you pronounce it. But he is like, if you need anything XSS related, he is the guy to look through. So on his Twitter or wherever, look at his stuff, because he has done so many things. And as you can see here, he has a page full of fairly short XSS payloads. And we can, for example, take this first one, which is an SVG that has an onload. So when this SVG loads, it's going to run some JavaScript. And I will just copy this one. And we can go into the challenge and see how long this is. Dot length. So, okay, that is 23 characters long. So that would just about work. The question is then, okay, what is it? This is going to execute eval name, which is going to take the name of the page and evaluate it. So if you look at the name variable, that is XSS extreme short scripting game. So if we would eval this, I doubt that would work. I doubt that's a valid payload that would get us what we want. So that's not it, but we can convert this into, instead of doing an eval, we can convert this in doing an alert, obviously. And that is 20 characters long. So if we try that, then you see that you find an alert, and that works. However, once we try to add the document.domain in there, that's when we obviously run into quite a few issues, because this is long and we want short. So,
but this was the track that I was on as well. So I think my plan would actually work.
Okay, that's great to hear. So yeah, we now know, okay, XSS is possible, but well, we cannot really execute anything meaningful. We wouldn't, for example, be able to send cookies over to our own server. That just wouldn't be possible. And I see that in the chat, somebody's saying that they try to explore the question mark Q part, and for example, sending a payload twice, hoping that the first time when it checks the length, it's going to take this question mark Q variable, and the second time when it tries to put it on the page, it's going to take this one, where then you could obviously change the length and make this phone very long. And that is a great idea. That's called a HPP, or a HTTP parameter pollution, which is also a vulnerability that is quite common. But that's not the case here, because if we look at the code, we can see that here we make our QS variable, and that same QS variable is being used to check for the length and to check and to put onto the page. So that would not work in this case. But this original payload is quite interesting, because it shows that we could potentially evaluate a variable that is present. And so any variable that we would put in between there would get executed. And that's an interesting one, because in this case, it would execute name, which we don't really control. So that's a bummer. But what other variables are there? We could try to execute the domain, maybe. That's not a valid one. Document.domain, but then that variable is obviously too long. What other variables are there here? Well, we talked about the name. Just looking at it, we have a lot of things that we could potentially execute, because JavaScript has access to all of these variables that it can use. But most of them we don't have control over, or the ones that we have control over. For example, you could say, oh, I want to do a eval of location.href, which we control. That's obviously way too long. But, and this is where a neat little JavaScript trick will come in handy, and that is that variables that are declared using var, they are not scoped to a certain function. And I don't know if you know about scoping and variables, but variables, they exist within a certain scope. That's where they exist. So from the time that they are made, they exist. If this was a let keyword that you've probably already seen, then this variable would only exist for the duration of this if. Outside of there, it would not exist. But in JavaScript, the var type globally scopes a variable. That means that if a variable is created using this var type, it is going to exist everywhere. And we can see that, for example, if I just try to type URI here, the URI variable is there. If I type QS, the QS variable is there. It's because they're globally scoped. And we can exploit that because we have a variable here. We wanted to execute a variable here. And now we have some variables that we control. We control QS, but QS has to be very short. So that won't help us. And QS is also the payload. That would be a mess. But this URI one is quite interesting here. Yeah. Because we could do this. And now we would be evaluating the URI, which we control, because we control that. And if we try to do that, so let's just input this payload, see what happens. Submit that. Then we see that we get an error in the page. We have an unexpected end of input. And, well, we can also just run an eval of URI here, and then we'll see the same error or a similar error, an unexpected end of input, because our URI just isn't valid JavaScript. It doesn't work like that. But luckily, there are some things in JavaScript that can help you here. First of all, we need to make sense out of our URI as a payload. And our URI consists of this. And this, we should see this as JavaScript. And in JavaScript, we have comments. We all know, somebody in the chat says, or just use first. The thing is, what would you use first for? First just contains yes or no. So if I change this to something, then that wouldn't really give us anything. Because
and
it's
cannot hijack it.
Yeah, you cannot use it in that way because it's not global, so we cannot use it in that way. And if we put our payload here instead of this yes, then we still have this whole string in front of it that will error it out and that will not make it work. So indeed, we control first, but let's just do what you say. So what you say is we have our alert document.domain here. So that's what we want to execute. And I will not work. Yeah, I will work here. Then we have our onload, and that's going to eval the URI still, right? This is the payloads that you are thinking of, or CTFL. Feel free to comment if you have a different one. But if we execute that, we see that we still get that error because we're trying to execute this string. And if I eval that string, that still errors out. That's still not valid JavaScript. Does that make sense to you, CTFL? So feel free to comment that, but we need to make sense out of this string as JavaScript. And let's say I'm a JavaScript parser. There's one thing that I know, and that's that in JavaScript, comments are defined by 2 slashes. And we can see that a URL has 2 slashes. So everything following this will be a comment. And that's stupid. But yeah, because that means that all of this is useless, right? And that is kind of true. But we also see that we get a weird error. Or error is an unexpected end of input. If I eval random string, then we get random string is not defined. So something odd is going on here. And if I eval with / something, then we still get that same random string is not defined. So something weird is going on with the first part of our URI. So, okay, can I not Control-C here? No, okay, with the first part of our URI, which is https:/. And if I eval https:/, we see that now we get that unexpected end of input. So this is throwing an error. For some reason, JavaScript sees this differently as just a random string. And that is because this is actually a feature in JavaScript. Believe it or not, JavaScript, what I think they're called something labels, I think. A label statement, yeah, a labeled statement works in this way. It allows this, and then you can continue to a certain place.
This shows that you're not old enough.
I know how this works in assembly and stuff like that, but why in JavaScript? Why is this a feature? Why is this a thing? It's so weird, and it's such a great coincidence that this is a valid statement, and then with the / that you have in every, like if you type HTTP : / that would make like a sort of valid thing in JavaScript. And indeed, I am very young, but that's insane, right? Yeah. Can we exploit that? How can we make that a valid thing? Well, here we see that to make it valid, they just have a new line behind it. So what if we try that? So what if we eval or HTTPS with a new line and then another statement such as an alert? Well, that won't work in this case because strings don't accept new lines. So if we use this quote here, the backticks, that will work. And then we see that, okay, now that is a valid statement. And now we can also add in our comment on this line. That doesn't matter. We still get that going. So that's the reason why we might get some interesting result when we insert a new line there. So let's try that out. Let's have our payload here and add a new line to it. I'm quickly going to work here so you guys can see it in a bigger version. And actually, this is quite useful. If I just type it out here, you can already see that JavaScript accepts this as a statement and this as a comment. So that would have possibly helped. But let's try to insert that new line there. So we're making that as a string. And then we're adding a new line there. Boom, that's our new string here. Will that work if we input that in a new tab here? No, that doesn't work because \n is not working like that in HTML. However, we can take that string and we can HTML encode it so that the URL can accept that new line. And I think encode URI is the right function to use here. And if we do that, we see that a lot of things change. But here at the end,
%0a,
%0a, which is a new line HTML encoded. So now if we try that, oh, we see that our length apparently exceeds 24. Where did we go wrong? Oh, yeah, because Now we encoded this entire part, which means that the length is too long. So we only have to encode that last little part. So I'm just going to add it here at the top. So an OA and execute that. And now we see that we have our alert document.domain. So that's great. We've fully solved this challenge, right? Let's try on Firefox. So I'm quickly going to open up.
And now the plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Or I mean, it should work, right? I mean, two browsers. This is basic thing. This basic thing. It should work. But what? It does not work. And this is the part that I think puzzled the most people out who are trying to solve this the first time around. And I mean, if we look at a port swigger XSS payloads, they have like a cheat sheet?
Yeah, and here also posted in the chat indeed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, this is a great resource. So if we go to an SVG with an on load, am I bad at the alphabet? Yes, I am. There we go. And all
it shows that you're really young.
Yeah. Okay, how does this work? Okay, here we see that this onload, this payload that we used here, the SVG with an onload and an alert. And here it says that it's compatible for Chrome, Firefox, I think that's Internet Explorer. Am I too young for that as well? And Safari. Yes. But, well, it says that it works on Firefox. But from our experience, we can clearly see that it does not actually work on Firefox, which is very peculiar. And in fact, I was really puzzled by that. So I went to Twitter and I made a video where I go through a lot of weird things that the browser does. So for example, here we have our SVG, where in the same situation, Firefox wouldn't execute it and Chrome would, and then with all kinds of different tags, I have a whole setup for all of the tags that accept an onload and the way they work, and I found it in like a ton of different places. They just didn't work or work in a different way. So that was really mind-blowing and interesting. Why did that happen? I also quickly want to share this here because this guy's tattoo, this is an actual tattoo of ReadyPack. He's a Dutch security researcher. He's on Integrity. This is an actual tattoo. And I'm sad to tell him that his payload does not work on Chrome, on Firefox. Yeah, so he might have to get like a revision on his tattoo. But luckily, to that tweet, I tagged two developers, one of Firefox and one of Chrome. And after some gibbering on about how I used the wrong logo for Firefox, he was able to tell me that this is actually a valid bug report now because of this challenge that we ran with Integrity. And here you can see this is the bug report. It was opened 6 days ago, so incredibly recent. Because this is a bug, it shouldn't be the case. It should work, but it doesn't. And I talked to the developer, and apparently it's because of a CVE in the past where it doesn't work anymore. And nobody ever noticed until now, until we tried this challenge, and it was a part of it. So that's a fun coincidence. So in the future...
Just so you can have your XSS challenges, we will fix this.
Yeah, exactly. The developer also said in the DM, say nobody has ever done this. There's probably no use for this feature outside of XSS. But yeah, I mean, it's something that according to the specification should work, I guess. So yeah, they're going to fix it. But they're going to fix it in the future. That doesn't help us for our current issue, because currently we still have a challenge that executes on Chrome, but that doesn't yet on Firefox. So how can we go around it? Well, maybe there are some other elements that accept an onload. So let's just Google for that. Let's find onload tags HTML. Will that give me any results? The onload event here, sure, cookies, whatever. Here we see the supported ones are body, frame, frame set, iframe, image, input, link, script, and style. We know that a script won't work. Link is an interesting one because that's the link CSS files that will only work if we have a link there. Input will only work if it's type image. That's way too long. Image will only work if it has an image attached to it. iframe is strange. Let's just steer away from that. Or no, let's not steer away from that, because iframe, we could try it with that. So just convert our
Should
SVG
have just
into an
enough
iframe.
characters. Oh, no.
That's too long. Okay, so we cannot use that one. But frame set is also too long. Frame could potentially work, I suppose. I've actually never tried it out. I didn't even know that that was a valid one that could have onload. So, I mean, let's try it out here live. Frame, no, doesn't work for some reason. Don't know why, but it doesn't. But that leaves us with the style tag. And let's hope that by chance this challenge would work if we use the style tag. On Chrome, it works. That's great. But what about Firefox? Because we know Firefox is weird by now. Like we've established that is a proven point. Does it work? And yes, it does. We get our sweet alert tag in the end. And this means that we also have a payload that can execute pretty much anything, because we're not bound by a restriction anymore. Now I executed alert document.domain, but I can also alert any string that I want. For example, never gonna give you up.
Never gonna
let you down. Never gonna, what's the lyrics?
Run around and
hurt you. And that will also
make you cry.
Very, very long. So now we've rickrolled ourselves. And if you were to send this link to somebody, they might think, oh, that's the real integrity domain. What's going to happen? Well, you've rickrolled them. So yeah, that was this challenge. And I hope that kind of shows you some insights into XSS and into maybe the little more advanced side of XSS, because in this case, we very quickly found that our name was being reflected. Like that was easy. It was also very easy to track why it would execute, why XSS was possible. But it was fairly hard, I think I can say, to actually get an XSS going that can do anything that we wanted to. But that was this challenge. I'm going to give you guys a minute to maybe ask some questions. Tell me if you liked it in the comments. Yeah, what you thought of this challenge, if you learned something new.
While we wait, maybe we can run Doom in it.
Yeah, who knows? It's possible.
They're asking for the final link. So
the final link. Okay, I'll give you
the one with the rickroll, I guess.
Obviously, I was not going to do anything else. I was... So that's the final link. If you guys want to run through this on your own in your own time through the solution and have to wait, there's also a video on the Integrity YouTube channel. We have the solution here, so you can check the entire solution and review it all, if that's what you want. I'll also quickly share.
While you're there, press the like button and hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Also hit the bell.
Yeah. Where's the bell? I have to sign in, damn it.
Yeah, I found that to be a very, very nice one. I was quite fast on the track of using SVG on load, and I had a pop-up, and then I figured out I would have to evaluate something.
Okay,
but
yeah.
Then trying to then the part that says style, because it does not work on Firefox, that would have tripped me up.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I while I was like putting this challenge and getting it up and running on Integrity and whatnot, I was trying to figure out like why does this not work? Why? And I couldn't. And at some point I just said, okay, I'm gonna release this challenge. The creator has a solution that works. People are gonna figure it out, and that's how I learned. So yeah.
One very nice thing is that you see is that while talking about it and exploring why that does not work, actually the community comes together and they say, well, this actually should work and let's fix it.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice consequence that we've got that bug that nobody would ever want to use. We'll get that fixed. But who knows, maybe in 10 years time somebody is going to have an SVG that has an onload and that does something crazy cool in who knows, Web 4 or Web 5, and they're going to thank us hackers for fixing the issue.
This was an issue? Seriously? Let's see. Let's see. There's some questions. Okay, this was hard. Above my pay grade. So, did you get a bug bounty from Firefox for reporting the bug?
Since this is not a security vulnerability, no bounty would apply for this. This is obviously a bug. But yeah, this wouldn't apply for a bounty. However, the original CVE did the issue, and I can try to quickly find that. I have it somewhere in this Twitter thread potentially. Yeah, this is the CVE. So this was an actual bug where somebody found a way to have an SVG with an onload. And
that sounds familiar.
At HTML and then pasted it somewhere on a copy paste playground. It would execute
a wild alert box appears.
Yeah,
Like
and
Pokemon game.
I guess the developers didn't quite understand the issue, and they were like, "Okay, how do we fix this? Let's just remove onload from working on SVG.
Yeah.
Nobody will notice, right?" Well, not until this week. And this is also from 2019, I think. Yeah, 2020 to 20. So yeah, it stood for 2 years.
Still a P2, so that's somebody thought it was somewhat important.
I mean, I guess it is, because this is some very interesting research in the risks of pasting into browsers.
Very cool.
Because you could imagine a phishing campaign where somebody says, "Oh yeah, just paste this into your browser," and well, that people shouldn't be scared to paste strings into browsers. We've already scared people enough of clicking on links in emails. That's already, whoa, you shouldn't do that. Let's not scare people of pasting things. So yeah.
Yeah, that's quite nice. Quite nice.
I
guess there's not a lot of questions at the moment.
That's great. Then we can move on to the next challenge. I'll quickly post this for the people that are randomly interested in that. But yeah, let's move on to the next challenge here, and this one is a bit harder, different. I mean, I guess difficulty obviously depends on what you know and whatnot. But if you haven't really dealt with a lot of front end development, this might puzzle you a bit longer. But let's see. Maybe you guys are incredibly smart, which you are. So this is the challenge 1021. So from October, because it's Halloween themed, and then integrity.io. It's the beautiful Halloween one.
Nice.
That we want to take a look at. So I'll post the link here. And Selpy, I the current QR code mess on InfoSec Twitter. Yeah, somebody has to explain to me what the issue would be with scanning a random QR code. Unless you have a 0 day in my QR code scanner, what is the issue? But yeah, for now, I'm again going to give you 10 minutes to take a look at this Halloween challenge. Everything is exactly the same. We need to execute on Chrome and Firefox an alert document.domain. But obviously this challenge is different. The same thing won't work as before. So good luck on that. And in about 10 minutes, I will come back and we'll see how you are progressing.
Well, small question, the QR code thing. I think most of the panic worry is about it being bought by Bitly. Bitly does the URL shortening.
Yeah.
And that would mean that anybody can create a URL, get a QR code on a trusted platform. I guess who you ask, a trusted platform, and that could be malicious, but I don't really see the difference with normal Bitly links.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess they like to have drama, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, that's InfoSec Twitter is partly people bragging about their bounties, partly actual really good content, and then a lot of people making drama out of things that shouldn't be drama.
True story. Yeah. So we'll take 10 minutes, take a look at it, and we'll get back then.
Sounds good. See you in a bit. All right. I hope you all had some time to work through it. I don't have a straw poll this time, but did you guys make any progression? What about you, Arjen? Did you get any?
I started looking at it. One thing I noticed in the console was the error messages. So I was scanning through the application to see if I can, yeah, get something interesting going. I do not have a lot of knowledge about CSP, so
Okay.
that's what I was taking a look at, seeing the error messages that are popping up. So
Okay.
that
Yeah,
was my train of thought.
that's a good start. Anybody in the chat? See that in the chat, some people were faking in an amazing way that a login page. So like this is, I
Yes,
would
they
fall
did.
for that any day. So
I know a lot of people who would. So
yeah, I mean,
Takeover says
yeah,
that they found the XSS partially. I don't know what partially means, but
partially. Okay. Well, what do you mean by that? Okay, you saw
it's,
that access parameter is being questioned in the PHP script. Somebody wanting to switch laptops because of the errors. Well, luckily that's not the solution. Okay, yeah. So I see that people are looking into it, but let's go through it together. I should say that I have not looked into this challenge since October, so this will be a journey for me as well, together with you again. But first of all, I hope that everybody made it onto this main page, which is obviously just the iframe here. It's way easier to work in this page in the full frame. But then we see that there's this text that says, "Are you scared? Are you still sane? Nobody can break this. Nobody can save integrity. I use $HTML equals to convey these messages. I'll release integrity from my wrath after you pop an XSS, else integrity is mine." And obviously, we have to save integrity from the Leetwitch 69.
there you go. That sounds important.
Yeah, we have to succeed here. It's do or die. So let's go into it. It mentions $HTML equals. So let's add that to my address bar here. Test. Oh, test appears on the screen. Well, that's amazing. Test appears. We have an HTML injection, or no, we have a content injection. We can type content onto the screen. We could try to find out if we have an HTML injection. Let's try to use for example, a tag such as the U1, and that underlines it correctly. So we also have an HTML injection. So I mean, easy peasy
Nice.
XSS, right? You can just go for a script tag, and this is easier than everybody could do this. What an easy what? It doesn't work. Well, why does this not work? That's for us to figure out. And here the errors that you talked about come in handy. So let me send that request again without anything, and we see that we get three errors here. We get an error that's saying that it refused to apply an inline style because it violates a content security policy. Oh no, terrible. And then we have this error and this error. However, if I add the HTML with our script tag, we see that we get an additional CSP-related error saying that it refused to execute an inline script because it violates the content security policy, which is CSP. But what is that, a content security policy? If I had to explain that right now, I would say that a content security policy is a way that the server can tell the browser, hey, this is what you need to execute, or this is the way that you need to execute JavaScript, or show or use styles and whatnot. And this is all to prevent things like XSS. For example, in here it says, the content security policy. So let's quickly look into the sources to actually view it. We have here the content, and here it's defined. So default source set to none, script source set to unsafe eval, strict dynamic. Then we have a nonce here. What's that? Then we have a style source and then a nonce. what does that all mean? Well, let's start off with the style source. The style source is going to say, well, only load styles that are allowed. And what is allowed? Well, in this case, styles with a nonce of this specific value are allowed. And if we go and look at styles here, we see here we have a style that has a nonce 16C, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, that nonce changes every time we reload the page. It's generated by the server. You could look for a vulnerability in that implementation, but you won't find any here. But so we cannot just like create a new style tag with the right nonce because it's different every single time. But obviously, injecting style tags is not really that interesting. We want to inject script tags. So here is the CSP that controls the script tags. And you can also see that a script tag also has to have a specific nonce, D6F in this case. So let's look for a script tag here that has that. And we can see that these two script tags have that nonce. So these two script tags are allowed to execute. However, our script tag that we injected here does not have that nonce, so it's not allowed to execute. Then our CSP has some other things to say about what is allowed in relations to script tags, for example, unsafe eval and strict dynamic. So let's quickly Google these two, because that's the best way to find out what they do. So CSP script source. Perfect.
Something that is called unsafe is it's like music in my ears, right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, right? So here, unsafe eval. The unsafe eval source expression controls several script execution methods. So if it isn't specified, then these methods would be blocked. However, it is specified, so these methods are allowed. So we're allowed to run eval, we're allowed to run function, we're allowed to run exact script, whatever. So okay, that doesn't really help us anyway, because we still need to execute JavaScript before we can run an eval or anything like that. And if we look into the source code here at the bottom, I don't think there's any eval in here that I can spot. Or is there?
Not that I see.
No. So that doesn't really help us in this case yet. But we also have strict dynamic set on it. And strict dynamic has a whole explanation here saying that the trust is explicitly given to a script present in the markup, and it shall be propagated to all the scripts loaded by that root script. Okay, that's like Chinese, but what does that mean? Well, the CSP, the Content Security Policy, it gives trust to specific scripts. In this case, it gives some kind of trust to a script with a certain nonce that we see up here. This nonce, a script with this nonce is given trust. It's trusted, the browser can run it. However, when strict dynamic is set, that trust is also propagated to all the scripts loaded by that root script. So that means that if this script that is accepted down here, if that script were to modify the DOM, add a new script tag to the DOM, then that script would also be allowed to run. Whereas if you don't have strict dynamic there, that would not be allowed. So let's say here it said append the child, document.create text node, and then a script tag that would be allowed to run because of that strict dynamic. And that's really what we need to know about the content security policy here. And that's also probably why this script is not working. But we've now learned some new information. However, do you have any questions about the content security policy? Because that was maybe not the best explanation. It's quite difficult, but if there's any questions, let me look through the comments here.
Dippler says, this is where I got stuck. My eyes also fell on the XSS thingy online 536, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how to leverage that. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go through this code then, maybe like what it does, because we now know that this script is very important, because we know that this script and the script above here, that these two have some unique property, because these would allow us, if they modify the DOM and add another script tag to the DOM that we control, then that's really the only way that we would get an XSS here, because the CSP is set and nothing else would be allowed. So we need to look into this. So this is going to add an event listener for DOM content loaded. It's going to create an E variable here with these random characters, and then new URL of location href, and then the search parameters get XSS. So that's all that this is going to do is get the XSS parameter. And let's quickly, to make that more clear, let's add an XSS get parameter to test, and let's debug this. Did I not end up there? There. Can I execute you? Yeah, there we go. So now we see that if I jump over this, now E will contain our characters with test, as we would expect, I suppose. Then this is going to get the last child of the body. So of the HTML body, it's going to get the last element out of it. And then it's going to see if the ID of that element is integrity. If that is the case, it's going to do all of this. And then we're jumping into here. Okay, now everything gets quite crazy. And before we go into this and fully understand it, we need to know what our end goal is, because we've currently seen, oh, XSS, whoa, we have to look into that. But what is our end goal here? Our end goal is to have this script add something to the DOM that we control. Now, what are places where this script is going to add something to the DOM? Well, right here. It's going to do a document.body append child of S. S is then going to be a script element. Okay, that sounds really good to me, because, well, we know that this script element that's going to be created is going to be executed as well. So that sounds amazing to me. Music in my ears. The script is going to have a type of text JavaScript, and it's going to end, and child is appended to it. So we're creating a script tag, and in that we're putting a child, and that child is going to be a text node of E. And, well, what do we see here? E is something we control a part of. That's great, right? So this all doesn't matter, because this is just a random if. If we end up here, we are going to be putting our input into a script tag. So let's let that run. And in elements here, we see that in this script tag indeed contains our payload here. So yeah, what do we need to do now? This is being executed. Does that work? Well, of course that doesn't work, because, well, that's not valid JavaScript. Just like in our earlier challenge where we had to kind of fix JavaScript, you have to do the same thing here. So this string has to become valid JavaScript, and our only current way of injecting into it is at the end here. So how would you do that? Well, I can spoil for you that, well, we can close this quote, and we cannot close any of these other things. So we cannot fix this JavaScript. That's impossible.
Well, CTFL asks, can we not just insert some backspaces? /B?
You can try, but I have not seen any string parser that does a backspace and then puts.
No.
Yeah, you could try, but I don't think that's a real feature of JavaScript. I know JavaScript has some random stupid features, but I don't believe that's one of them. Or at least when this challenge ran, about 25,000 people tried it, and nobody got something like that to work.
It would be, let's see.
That would be a really nice breakthrough if that worked. But sadly, it doesn't. So okay, we're still stuck there. We can only append to the end of it. Now let's also quickly look at this. I mean, like I said, I haven't solved this challenge in 4 or 5 months now. So this is for me also solving it together with all of you guys.
We have faith in you. It will be fine.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's do it. So earlier we saw that our XSS tag is also being used, or something is happening here in this if with this last element of the body. Now, what is the last element of the body? That is going to be this script tag. Something is going to happen with that script tag, but only if the ID of it is integrity. And the ID here is not integrity. Okay, that sucks. So we are never going to end up in this if loop, right? Well, not exactly, because right now for the DOM, this is the last element of our body. But what about when we execute this? And so I'm gonna again get my breakpoint in there and do this. Go to my breakpoint. Let's jump over it and let's see what this element is. And this element is a div, a container. It's not the script tag. And that is because at this point, our script tag hasn't been created yet. It's created all the way at the bottom here. So, okay, we got that straight. We know, okay, that the element that we're targeting here is always going to be this last div called container with the ID container that contains some random things there. That's fine. But what is it going to do with that? Well, it's going to take L, which is the last element of that container. It's then going to take the inner HTML of L, trim it, save that in I. It's then gonna take a substring of, what are these, the first 4 characters of there, and then whoa, E is gonna get modified, and E is what we add to our script tag, and we are prepending something to E. So this must be what we want, right? Because E was this, and now we are having a way that's prepending something here. So, well, if we could just prepend this, then we could get an alert, I guess. Oh yeah, we have to close that as well. And even then I am messing up. But that's a problem for later. We know that we need to prepend something here. So for that, we need to end up in this if loop. And for that, we need, first of all, the ID of this last element to be not container, but, well, integrity.
Dippler notes that the substring will not take the first 4. It will take all of the characters except the last 4.
That might very well be no, but will it not take the last 4 then? Because
I.length will be the inner HTML. So if that's 16, it will be substring 12.
Yeah, so then it will take and to the end. So the last 4 characters, right? Dippler. I mean, we can really easily try that, right?
Yeah, well, let's just give it a try. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, if you have questions, we just try it out and then we see what. So, wait, what? How did I copied something and it did not copy? Thank you. And now I'm all the way back up here.
Sob says, "I got it." Nice.
Oh, did you? That's very, very good.
At first he goes complaining about how horrible browsers are and stuff like that, and then he goes to solve it.
And now he solves it. Yeah, let's create our I here. I is going to be equal test string, and now this variable.
We talked about that not too long ago.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, okay, you see, it's the last 4 characters.
Last 4 characters.
Last 4 characters. That's great. But that doesn't help us because we need this ID to be integrity. However, we still have our HTML that we're injecting, and we can take a look at where that's ending up. So if I just call it like change the HTML to PinkDraconian, we can find out where it is ending up. Oh, it's all the way right up here. That is where we are doing our thing. But now we have a goal. And our first goal is to make sure that this div has an ID of integrity. But this is where we're working. This is where we're changing things. That might seem like a little bit of an issue, but let's take it in steps. First of all, we want to get out of this div and out of this h1, and we can really easily do that by closing an h1 tag and then closing a div tag, and then we can say, well, payload. So now if we execute that, we see, first of all, we were executing code here, or inputting things there, and now we're already inputting things here, which is closer to what we actually want to override. But now it becomes hard, because now we cannot just go out of things. I mean, we could go out of this div, but that wouldn't do anything, right? Well, we can try that. What happens if we close another div? Now our payload is still up here, so nothing really much has changed. We could even try to close the body. That doesn't do anything, and we can try a lot of things, but it seems impossible, right? However, I can tell you that it's not possible. And just so we move along here, I'm going to have a quick peek at my own write-up that I have, just so we don't take too long here.
Salp posted his solution to my DM, and I tested it, and it works.
Congratulations, Salp.
He is well on his way to become a JavaScript ninja.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's the way to go. All right, so
and he will have to explain how he thought about this one, because that's horrible. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah,
it's the presenter's curse where things always go wrong, but
I forgot how to do it. You already said that you had taken did not see this for 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's I should have prepared more. That's it. No. But we can.
My first idea would have been to just wrap everything in a new div, right? So
Okay,
where we
so
do the
you want to
payloads
wrap
and not close the div. Would that not give the?
So now we're here, and now you want to wrap everything in a new div.
Well, we have payload, and if we just start a div tag there with the ID integrity, and we do not close it, and adds it itself. Okay.
Yeah, it closes itself. Okay, but yeah,
that's a horrible thing.
That's a bummer, and it will always kind of close itself, which is a bummer. But what if we play around with this, and what if we like half start divs, like we start them but we don't close them? Now wait, what happened here? Wait, what? Huh? That's strange. Did you see that happen? So if we do that, the expected happens. Our payload is in a div now. But if I remove this closing thing here, what in the world are you doing, browser? It took our payload and it created its own new tag. It imagined up a tag that's called div payload opening quote. That's our tag. And at the end here, it closes that tag. And well, that sounds like a normal thing. I mean, everybody would react that way, right? But one of the things that this tag has is the fact that it now contains all of the other data in our thing. So we've successfully escaped that there. And now we need to make this tag have a certain ID, but that's not hard. We just give it an ID of integrity. And now we have our div with ID integrity that is working here. Okay.
That's quite messed up, but okay.
Yeah, try to explain that. Like try to put yourself in the shoes of a browser. How would you react? Well, I don't think you would react in this way.
I still blame IE6 for all this mess, right?
That's a valid concern, a valid thing to do. But yeah, okay. Now we see that already something is being prepended to our payload here, and that's pan closing. Where is that coming from? Well, that is going to be, I think, the last element here. The last part
from the span. Yeah.
from span. I guess we can check the source code to double check that. So what was it going to do? It was going to take the last element of it and take the inner HTML of the last element. So the last, oops. The last element of our new div here. Well, let's give this a different name so it's like more clear. Newly invented tag. So let's take the last element of our newly invented tag, which is our container, and then from that we took something which was here, which were the last 4 characters, I suppose. So that's our pan here in this case. Okay. Good stuff. Now we've already moved a bit ahead, but now we still need to control the end of this. And do we have all the building blocks for that ready? Well, potentially we have, because we found already a way to get out of that, to create a new div that encompasses everything. But maybe we can do that again. So the same technique that we did before by not closing a tag, maybe we can use that again to get something working. That would potentially be an idea. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes because we're running out of time. 5 minutes to play around with that. So just try to use the technique that we just did. I will already post where we're at in the chat and try to get that going.
Yeah, a bunch of people are quite actively trying different things, so looks good.
Yeah, that's very great to see. Obviously, I like that you all are doing it, and hopefully you learn something new here.
I think the most ironic thing of this entire exercise is that Salp, who has a pure hatred for front end, and has been a backend developer his entire life, and that really does not like the front end, is the first one to solve it.
I must say I quite admire that. Like, this challenge took quite a while for even the experts to solve it. So that's very, very good. I'm impressed.
That is quite something. If you would have asked me just before our meeting, saying like, who would do well and stuff like that, I would have figured that Salp would be just kind of like me. And now it's tough. Amazes me every time. But he's still, I hope you all learn that JavaScript and browsers are truly evil.
I hope everybody learns that as well.
Yeah, but the reason why I say that I think IE6 is to blame is Microsoft back in the day. I was working for a company called Personify in the US, and we made this fancy. It was fancy for the time, right? But it had all these really neat JavaScript animations and stuff like that. And what Microsoft did is that it figured out that most programmers are not very good, and so they started to become very accepting of invalid data. So they accepted that HTML was not very well formatted, so they would fix it for you, and then they started doing all these types of things. And up to now, we have wonderful tools like the dev tools. We have wonderful IDEs that do stuff, and it still tries to fix stuff for us, and it's horrible. Horrible. We should not do this.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Like, why try to fix everything? And we really shouldn't.
But I guess if we stop doing it, most JavaScript programmers or most front-end programmers will figure out that it is quite hard to write proper HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's a big travel. Yeah, yeah. We had to deal with IE. I don't know if it was 6 when we built the eBuddy. I don't know. Are you old enough to remember eBuddy, PinkDraconian?
The what?
eBuddy. It was a online instant messaging platform. You could log in and use it for MSN, Yahoo, ICQ, have all your
Phew.
accounts in one place.
I'm only 21.
Yeah, you don't remember. Yeah, yeah. So Jeroen remembers. Pembrokes Farm remembers. But it went sideways. I think what is now about 7 years ago, I guess. It was taken over by Line, and then there was a Booking.com did a acquisition for the talent and not for the product.
Yeah.
But eBuddy was very nice, and I did backend coding there, did the entire architecture. But we tried to have a very nice responsive interface where you could do all your chatting and stuff. But back then, dev tools and stuff like that
Yeah.
was like pretty much non-existent. So it was quite a feat to actually get something up, and that's because the people there were very talented. And they went on to Mozilla as well and other companies. But
Nice.
yeah,
Good story from the history of
yeah, I feel old.
yeah. So sorry. So let's move on to the challenge again.
Yeah, indeed.
We don't make you feel old. So
No.
here is my screen again. So this
There we
is
go.
where we left off. And we are injecting here, but we need to again wrap the contents of this part so that we control the end of it. And for that, we can just use that same technique as we had before. So I'm just gonna close this here and just open a new another tag. And if I do that, we see, okay, now we have our newly invented tag and our another tag. And now we see that the end of, or what gets prepended here is div closing, which as you can see is just the end of other tag. So now we just need to, again, control the last 4 characters of this. So I can make yet another tag and not close that. And now we see that tag is the end here.
There we go.
So okay, we're getting quite far here. However, now we have to control these last characters here, and we have to make sure that this becomes valid JavaScript. And for that, I'm going to quickly hop into the console again, where we had this that we were trying to turn into valid JavaScript. And actually, it's really, really easy to turn this into valid JavaScript. What if we just get a quote in the beginning here? And then obviously this test wouldn't be there because we control that. And then a semicolon, and then an alert. A string is a valid statement in Java, and then the alert works. So that's what we're going to try to do. So let's first of all set up the XSS part. So that's just a semicolon alert, and then let's add documents.domain to it for a good measure. This won't work yet because now we see that we still have tag closing thing, closing brackets, no, closing greater than sign. It doesn't have closing in the name. Wow, confusing. But now we need to get a quote somehow in the name of that tag. How do we do that? Is that even allowed? And we're talking about JavaScript and HTML. Of course that's allowed. If I just put a quote here, then we see that works. A quote in a tag, what will the browser do? It will say, oh, you want to create yet another tag quote as a name for a tag here? Of course you can do that. Here, we'll close it for you because you forgot to do that. You forgot to close it. No worries at all. We'll do that for you with that quote. So we have that now, but that still doesn't work because if we look in a console, we still have unexpected string. And we can try to execute this and see that error. And that's because we have this AG still in the front of it. So we somehow still need to cut off 2 more characters.
Which is some more quotes.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could try adding some more quotes. So 2 more quotes, you say. Now we get this. We still don't get our result because we still have unexpected string because now it's 2 strings following each other. But I mean, your idea of just adding things is good. What if we just add 2 more characters at the end of it? So just AB. Now we see that our alert pops up. And if
there we go.
We see that now we have quote AB or strings, and then the semicolon. And our alerts document.domain, which works perfectly fine. I'll put this into the spaces would have worked as well into the chat. And yeah, that is this. This is this XSS challenge. As you can see, my brain is rattled. I've been up from 6 a.m. And XSS challenges, they do rattle your brain for quite a while. I see that Sal went for a variable assignment. So let's take a look at his solution here. So, oh yeah, at the end, he said, I'm gonna. What is this a variable assignment, Sal, or is this just a tag? Oh! In there you went for a variable assignment. Oh, okay, of course, because JavaScript accepts a tag with the name diff_x equals quote. That's a valid name. I did not even know that x equals is accepted as a name, like equals is accepted in a name. Because, I mean, usually what you would have is that your x equals would be like an attribute. But that obviously wouldn't work because your attributes don't get added in the end.
Yeah.
But I hope that if you take anything away from this talk is that XSS is a lot of fun. It can get crazy, but also never trust your browser. It's evil. It's after you. Like
it's truly evil. Yeah, to sum it up, Dippler says, this is a mess.
Yeah, that's a great way to sum it up. This is a mess. My head is a mess. Everybody's head is a mess, I guess.
Captain Crunch says, this is insane. Wow.
But yeah, if you like this kind of insanity, then follow the @Twitter account, the @Integrity account on Twitter. As you can see, I'm just rattled. And you can get these monthly, just coming at you, try to solve them. If you think this is too hard and you want to do some easier XSSs, then just go and hunt on programs. Hunt on companies, go on integrity.com and start hunting, because you will find XSSs that are 10, 100 times easier than this. This is like the hardest of the hardest. But if you can solve these, then you have a great chance at finding some easier XSSs on actual companies. So definitely look into that. I said it in the beginning, but I'll repeat it right now here. If anybody wants to give Integrity a go, wants to start doing bug bounty hunting, create a profile on integrity.com and comment your username with like integrity username is into the chat, and then I will send it out to our team and I will get everybody at least one invite out to you so you can kind of get a head start and start hunting, and hopefully you will find some XSSs, or you will find an RCE, an IDOR, whatever, an SQL injection, an XXE. All of those are possible on real targets, and you will get some money for it. So yeah, I wish you all a good luck with that.
Yeah, I already took the liberty to label all those. Hey, my name is.
Thank you.
Kind of like Eminem with the red panda. It's our favorite emoji, so you can easily find them.
That's perfect. I have one last thing to do, and that is we have to find a way of picking 2 winners that win some swag. And what would be
normally?
I have something in mind.
Oh, there we go.
And we might not be able to get the winner right now, but maybe in like. Okay, no, we can do it. We're gonna do it right now. So
yeah, do you want me to share your screen?
No, that's fine. Can you all see this link that I've just shared? Or actually, yeah, feel free to share my screen.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat.
And I will share my screen, and we'll go to that link.
Let's scream in the mic, and the loudest wins. Nope.
Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, this page is. Can you not use that link, or is it just because I'm not logged in?
I get bug bounty memes.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to get. Apparently, you cannot do it without a Twitter account. So let me get that going on my Firefox. So this is a Bug
Interesting.
Bounty memes group where you can just post memes that have to do with Bug Bounty. As you can see, some are already in here. And let's just do a fun game where we'll give you 10 minutes to create a meme, post it in this group, and then we're gonna look over them, and the best 2 memes get a swag voucher. Does that sound good to you, Arjen?
That is original, so I'm down for it. So that's to recap. Go ahead, create a meme and post it in our meetup text, and then we'll pick somebody. That way, nobody needs to create a Twitter account if they don't have one.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Salp already has something.
Okay, I can see that these are gonna be great. So yeah, we'll be. I guess we can just keep on chatting for 10 minutes. I hope you don't mind going over time here.
No, we are all good. We are all good. So
and then we
yeah.
can start looking at some.
So while we wait for memes, and I think we will get some quite interesting ones, or they all agree with Salp. Well, then it's also quite easy. But, yeah. So how did you get into this world? Not. Let me rephrase that. How did you? That was a horrible thing. How did you get into info security? Let's
like I got into it because like when I was 15, 16, I had never written any code, saw anything, but I started watching live overflow videos on YouTube. And it was like I saw these things and I didn't understand a single word of it. Like it was all just magic. And he was talking about like buffer overflows, and I had never even written a line of code or anything, not even seen C codes. I was just watching that. I was like, yeah, of course, yeah. And then I went to college and I started learning about coding and all of that kind of stuff. And I started recognizing some things that I saw in Live Overflow's videos. And I was like, hey, that's cool. Maybe I should revisit that thing and see if I can now solve these challenges instead of just watching the video and not understanding a thing. And that's how I got pulled into Hack the Box. And I did, like, my first year of InfoSec was purely doing Hack the Box, with my goal being to become the best in Belgium, and just grinding that every single evening. And I had my standard buddies from school, and we would all just every day after school, we would text each other, today this box. Yes, let's do it. Let's go. And then we just spent the whole night on that box. And then at school, we met up again and we were like, oh, that was crazy. Yeah, how do we do this? How do we do that? And that's how it all started. And it started snowballing from there. I started a YouTube channel because I noticed that I was doing a lot of boxes, but I wasn't really retaining the information. Like I wasn't really saving it in my brain. I was just doing it once and then not going deeply into it. So I thought, well, if I have to explain what I did to somebody, then I have to understand it better. And as shown here in this October XSS challenge, if you don't fully understand it, you're gonna have a tough time explaining it, which is true. So that's how I got deeper into it. And I mean, security is just a ton of fun, and little things can have big consequences. Like I just noticed that earlier when I shared my Twitter screen, I had some of my my messages tab open, and you could see some of the last DMs that I have sent. Luckily, there's nothing terrible in there, but I just noticed that like security
we'll be the judge of that. We'll watch the recording back, and we'll figure
exactly.
it out.
So, luckily, you will only see that I messaged Deliveroo Belgium because I had a complaint. But there's nothing.
My vliegtuig was er niet, jongen.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got into hacking and all of that kind of stuff. So I come from kind of a background without any development knowledge or like without any experience in development teams, but straight into cybersecurity, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But yeah, I mean, if you're into security, you'll learn how to develop pretty soon. Like because you look at so much code. Like I've never learned PHP, but by now I've looked at so much PHP code that if somebody asks me, hey, build this, I'm like, okay, yeah, fine, I can do that for you.
That's true. And you're only 21, right? So
yeah,
so much to go. So and you started in college and do the sleepless nights, work on it. Did you ever become the best in Belgium?
Yes, I did actually. After about 9 months, I was on the #1 spot in Belgium on Hack the Box. Which
Nice.
at the time was, I mean, I didn't get Omniscient, which was my final goal. I got Guru. Uh,
Ah,
but yeah, Omniscient was just, I started going for it and grinding it. I had all the boxes, I had most of the challenges, but then you get to the kernel exploitation challenges, and back then I had never even done simple ROP chains, so yeah, those were a bit too much for me, and that's where I had to give up. At that point.
yeah. Well, I only know one omniscient person. He's actually also part of the meetup. He's our friend from South Africa. And the first time I saw it, I thought like, yeah, he's making a joke. Do you know how much trouble that is to get omniscient? But
Yeah,
he did it. He did it.
yeah, I might have to get on that grind sometime when I have extra time to.
It's undoable. It's undoable.
I mean, it definitely was easier back in the day, in my opinion. Maybe people won't agree with me, maybe, but
Well, I think there are some really nice, more difficult boxes that are there, and we're up to like 265 boxes now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's quite something. So I
Yeah.
don't know, but some people do it. They spend the time and they actually become omniscient.
I mean, I was already very happy with the Guru. I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
pass on omniscience. that's a that's like a whole new level of dedication that I don't think I have right now. What
Hey,
about
shall
you?
we look at some? How about me?
What did you? How far did you get on Hack the Box? How did they lure you into it?
Oh, I was into security since 2011, I guess, doing security for a company, working on more
Mhm.
information security, data, stuff like that. And I went into infrastructure as well as code because my background is that I'm a coder. Um, and at one point, I started training for my OCP. I guess training. I want to do my OCP
Yeah,
certification. I had done CEH because HR wanted that at one point, and then I figured I would do some actual work. And so I went for OCP, and then I went through the lab, and I needed more boxes to train, and then I found Hack the Box, and well, that's how I got started actually. So, um, and then I made the decision to start hosting a meetup. And then, well, ever since then, I've been deeply involved with Hackbox. I have my own lab as well at the company where I work, or the school that I work for.
yeah,
We have our own lab, so I don't spend a lot of time on normal HTTP anymore. I have my own lab with exclusive machines and all the goodies, plus all the things that are on HTTP.
yeah.
So I'm stuck somewhere on pro hacker, I guess, not very high. But yeah, every week I take students on the Friday morning. I do hack the box with them. We do a machine. They get the week to actually work on it as well, and then the next week we do another machine. And well, I hope to teach them something about it, and yeah, that's the fun I get from it. So, and every week I do a box. So that's that's
Yeah,
very good.
that sounds really nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I must say that for me, like my teachers or my professors in cybersecurity, I had one course, cybersecurity for beginners was the course, and like they really like pushed. These are the places where you can go if you want more of this, because that was very simple. That was like your basic XSS, but they like and they really inspired me as well to because so I think that's professors in those fields play a huge role in nurturing the future cybersecurity talent, because in my opinion it has to come from passion. You cannot become a penetration tester, a bug bounty hunter, or a red teamer without passion.
No,
in,
that's
in my
very true.
opinion.
Yeah, I always tell my students then they will learn how to fail really quick. Because they do stuff that is not meant to happen. Whoever thinks about doing tags on tags on tags with a
Yeah.
quote and then some spaces and then haha. So yeah, that explorative thinking and being free with your thoughts on doing it. Yeah, that's yeah a special gift, I think. And if you look, I've been doing a cybersecurity course since 2019 now, so this is our third year. And so in that time, I've had, I guess, 500-600 students, which most of them have gone into the cybersecurity world. They get swallowed up and they go on to threat analysis or pen tester or anything they want. So yeah, that's. I think that's quite fun because every company that I talk to, they probably have one of my students working for me.
I can imagine that. Yeah, no, that's definitely. Shall we? The 10 minutes
Should we
have
do
passed.
some judging? Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at some memes. Do you maybe want to share your screen with the memes?
Sure. Yeah, after you've shown your DMs, you're quite careful now, right?
Yeah. I don't have an easy way of sharing my Discord without showing my DMs. So
There we go. Let's scroll all the way up.
okay, our first it's DNS.
It's always DNS.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should have told that to those. What company was it that went down because, or like the whole, half the internet went down because of DNS, like not so long ago.
Was it Cloudflare or?
Yeah, no, wait, no, it wasn't Cloudflare. It was. I can't come up with it now.
It was a DNS issue. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Mike Myers. Using eval in your scripts. I too like to live dangerously.
Yeah, I mean, between the divs, there is something.
There is some integrity. There we go.
Yeah. You have to read between the lines, you know. When you're told you can.
Welcome to the internet. Yes.
I like that one.
I'll be the apostrophe police and say, you are.
Yeah. Immediately losing a PowerPoint.
Hackerman. I got MFA and strong passwords, and some random hacker hijacked cookies and got access to their accounts. Peace. Hackerman.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the securest passwords if the website is bad. Use Xss, don't you have any integrity? What does that mean? I don't understand.
Captain Crunch, he says, Log4j, this is fine. Log4j was a really big thing on the Discord because a lot of our members are in infrastructure and they had to patch like the entire December. So me, who doesn't use any logging at all.
Christmas month for you then.
Hey, Office Space, here we go. Yeah, let's run privileged containers. That would be great. Learn to do JavaScript Xss or draw 25.
I like that one. That's
funny. IT crowds, you don't need a vault when you have Confluence and a password to save your key storage. Secure. Confluence is a wiki, right?
I've heard of it a lot, but I genuinely don't fully know what it is. Exactly.
How does Xss work? Just make a bogus thing. That's very apt to our.
Yeah, I like that one.
Jigsaw really wants it because this is like his third meme already. It's like no. Okay.
Hardware stuff. I don't understand.
Hardware.
And I mean, if you're thirsty, get on the Red Bull program because they give out Red Bulls
Red
if
Bulls.
you get an XSS there. So yeah.
Do you have it? Well, we laugh about it, but the company that I worked for, they had a disclosure program, and we had this entire group of Indian people come and share possible vulnerabilities among each other so that they could all get a bounty. This is quite funny. Um, want to sleep? Sleepless nights. Yeah.
I'm gonna rate that a 0. No bug bounty meme. Just sleep meme.
Yeah, true story. That website doesn't. Click. That's more of an internet meme because if we don't allow cookies, how are we going to store that we don't want cookies?
I like that one. It's not a data breach. It's a surprise backup.
Yeah, that's fun. That's funny. Yeah. That is very apt. I believe we have some members that look like that. Yeah, and I did not submit a meme because I do want swag, but I cannot do it. So, which one did you like best?
Let's both pick one that we like best. I'm gonna go for the Uno one. I think it's great. It's a great thing to take away from the talk today, from what we've learned. So yeah, congratulations, UID1. I will be messaging you later a swag voucher that you can use on swag.integrity.io.
Yeah, and now for me to pick one.
Now for you. Should we do a drum roll?
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. I think I will go for the very aptly chosen, and I love me some Kermit. So I will go for how does Xss work? Just make up some bonus tags. I think that one's funny.
Congratulations to you,
Dippler. Yeah, there you go.
Check if I can message you boys because sometimes Discord doesn't allow that. Okay, I can message Dippler and I can. Woohoo! All right, yeah. So I will be sending the swag codes out to you in a little bit. And so yeah, that was it for today. I hope you guys learned that XSS is fun, but that XSS will wreck your mind, that it's hard, and that you will hopefully try out Bugbounty sometime because there's lots to learn. It's lots of fun. It's not only XSS, it's also everything that you've seen on Hack the Box before. But yeah, it's a whole new thing that you can play around with. So yeah, I hope that's a takeaway from this talk.
Yeah. Thank you very much, PinkDraconian, Robert. We had a great time. People are having fun with Xss challenges. Old Man Grumpus, he won being the first. We can still give away some VIP for Hack the Box as well. So I would suggest we give it to Selp because he stepped over his anger and actually did the challenge.
Yeah,
so
that's a good
we
one.
will give him a VIP. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you everybody for joining us again. It was a very fun evening. Next month, in March, Salp will actually be presenting a reverse engineering workshop. So that will be quite fun as well. So see you all next month, the third Wednesday of the month. I don't know. I think it's the 16th or something like that. Somewhere around there. We'll look it up in the calendar. See you all. Have a great evening and see you next time at the meetup. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.